tonight. Finally feeling free and it feels so right. Oh, time to do the things I like. Gonna see a princess, everything's alright. Oh, no job but I answer to. Ain't a fixture in the palace zoo. No, and since the carbonite's off me, I'm living life now that I'm free, yeah. Told me get myself together, now I got myself together. Now I made it through the weather, better days are gonna get better. I'm so happy, the carbonite is gone. I'm moving on, I'm so happy that it's over now. The pain is gone. Shades are coming from my eyes, I'm jumping in my ride, I'm heading out tonight. I'm solo, I'm hot and solo, I'm hot and solo, I'm hot and solo, solo. Picking up my blaster, putting it on my side, I'm jumping in my Falcon, boogie at my side. I'm solo, I'm hot and solo, I'm hot and solo, I'm hot and solo, solo. I'm hot and solo, I'm hot and solo, solo. Now I'm feeling how I should join the alliance, it feels so good. Oh, stop feeling misunderstood. Back in the game, who knew I would? Oh, so fly time I spread my wings. Loving myself makes me wanna sing. No, oh yeah, 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 yeah. Told me get my act together, now I got my act together. Yeah, now I made it through the weather, better days are gonna get better. I'm so happy, the carbonite is gone. I'm moving on, I'm so happy that it's over now. The pain is gone. Shades are coming from my eyes, I'm jumping in my ride, I'm heading out tonight. I'm solo, I'm hot and solo, I'm hot and solo, I'm hot and solo, solo. Picking up my blaster, putting it on my side, I'm jumping in my Falcon, boogie at my side. I'm solo, I'm hot and solo, I'm hot and solo, I'm hot and solo, solo.
Ta-da!
Ta-da! We made it. We made it through that. Ken, John, everyone here. I'm going to let everyone introduce themselves in a minute, but I am Mike from the Inflatable Falcon, and we're doing a whole bunch of roundtable just about love of Star Wars and everything today. So, Ken, can you kick it off while I try to get our Facebook feed
Yeah,
working?
sure thing. So I'm Ken, one of the other hosts here on the Inflatable Falcon. When I'm not on this show, I'm on the Rambling Star Wars Fan, which is an open love letter to all the makers. And I'm also part of the Bounty Hunting Across the Galaxy podcast with Todd and Ken. And we'll let Todd introduce himself in a little bit, but I'm going to turn the microphone over to John to introduce himself.
I'm back. I'm obviously in a new place. When you can't find me here on the Inflatable Falcon, you can find me at the Beskar Bucket. So sorry for my absence the last few months.
We have missed you, that is for sure.
Whoever wants to go next.
We'll turn it over to Amanda. We'll end up with Todd.
Hey, I'm Amanda. I am from the Clashing Sabers podcast and just thrilled to be here. I'm in charge of Patreon content over there, but we have a whole network of great people who talk about everything from books to live action to, have we done animation? Everything.
Well, and I think you should brag a little bit more about some of the other things that show does.
I would love to. We are a nonprofit, and all of our money that we earn through Patreon and an annual fundraiser goes to giving free books to teachers, which is how I got connected with the podcast in the first place. So
that's awesome.
I am a recipient. So go to clashingsabers.net and you can nominate a teacher. And I'll tell you a little secret. Every teacher that's nominated gets books. So.
Nice.
Hey, we're also a nonprofit, if that, but
we make
not for lack of trying.
Yeah, right.
And we're going to end up with Todd down at the bottom.
Okay, so I'm Todd. I'm from the Table Ready podcast, as well as Bounty Hunting Across the Galaxy with Todd and Ken. And then I'm also on YouTube with playing Dungeons and Dragons with my sons, Logan and Michael, at Lake Clayton Legends.
Yeah, so we've got quite the medley tonight, and what Mike and I had talked about doing was gathering some folks together just for a chance to talk about what it is that we find so wonderful about Star Wars and how we figure out ways of incorporating that into our day-to-day lives, whether it's stuff we read, stuff that we watch, stuff that we do. We'll have Amanda, our newest guest, if you don't mind starting off that conversation with just how Star Wars got into your world.
Well, I'm a little bit of an unusual one because I did not grow up with it. I could have as a baby on. My parents weren't into it, so I found Star Wars through The Mandalorian and just fell in love. And when I do something, I don't do it by halves. So I started watching everything chronologically and including all the animation and missing a few pieces still. COVID really helped me catch up fast. It was very good that way in the midst of all the awful. And ever since then, I'm a reader, so I read the books. I got into it right when the High Republic was starting, which was great for me as a jumping on point, and read quite a few beyond that too. So.
Well, speaking of the awful, have you seen the Star Wars Holiday Special?
I haven't. I have not. I've kind of avoided that one.
I like it.
Avoid's the wrong word. Prioritized other things is what I want to say.
Yeah, so we're big fans of it. So when I say awful, it was 100% tongue in cheek.
It's all part of the whole encompassing world,
Yeah,
absolutely. And let's turn the microphone over to Todd and let's hear his part.
So Star Wars has been part of my life, my entire life. When I was 6 or 7, I was introduced to it. My aunt took me to see The Empire Strikes Back. I have been through the dark days of no Star Wars content and come out on the other side and only love it more. I read, I play the video games, I've seen all the movies, I've watched most of the cartoons, not all of them, but I'm getting there.
And how about you, John?
So I was introduced by by pure accident. I've told this story on here a couple times, but I was scrolling through channels while my grandparents were babysitting me and ended up on The Empire Strikes Back and just fell in love with it ever since. A lot of my core memories, especially from my childhood, are of Star Wars. Specifically, one that stands out is going to the midnight of Revenge of the Sith with my dad and my grandma. And it's been all-encompassing ever since.
So would you say that the Force is strong in your family? Is that what you're trying to get at?
The Force runs strong in a very select part of my family.
Gotcha. Fair enough. So I was born in 75, so I don't think I went to see A New Hope in the theater. But I do remember having like R2-D2 birthday cakes and toys and watching, the later movies. And I've just been hooked ever since. And how about you, Mike, as the senior?
Well, yeah, I am old enough to remember life before Star Wars because it didn't exist. But I do remember Star Wars was one of the few first movies I had seen. And it just, I've said this before on this show and a couple other shows that I wish I would have known as a little child how much it was going to change my life when I walked out. Because after seeing New Hope in 77, everything was looked through the lens of Star Wars. Like everything I did. And I remember the lean times of no Star Wars. And I remember the holiday special when I was a kid, I loved it. And I forced my children to watch it when they were growing up. Like John, my family is pretty strong in the Force. My kids love it. One's Amanda Merck, but she's out in California right now. So hopefully she can at least chime into the show tonight. But it's pretty much, it sounds like we all have our entry level, but it kind of all just encompassed all of us. And I even remember books on tape. That's how old some of the books I listened to on tape. So,
Well, let's be honest. You probably listened to your fair share of books on record.
that's
I
true.
had one of those.
I did have one of the Star Wars books on a record. Yes, I did.
And you said you had some of those as well, Todd?
Yeah, I had the Return of the Jedi one. I know for a fact. I don't know if I had any others, but I definitely had that one. I think I wore it out.
I had the G.I. Joe before that. And we had those battery operated record players where you put the record in and you close it. And it took C batteries, which is no one uses anymore, but it would play it through a horrible speaker. So, yes. And nowadays we can 3D print records. So there we go.
Will they actually play music?
I don't know. Someone was messing
Weird,
around with them.
scratchy
They told me that it could. I honestly, if I'm going to print something that takes that long, it's going to be a helmet. So.
Fair enough.
So it is interesting that we all have had our own individual steps into it, and that step didn't stop there. It grew when we either, amassed wonderful collections of things or had this desire to learn more. And so what is it about this galaxy that makes you want to go beyond what that initial entry point is? And we'll start with Todd on this one.
It's the characters, the lore, everything that goes into it. I mean, everything is layered and piled on top of one another. And you can start with the movies and just, I want to know more. I want to know more. And just look into the books, into the comic books, into the video games, and all that stuff. And it just broadens the galaxy. It doesn't make it any smaller.
How about you, Amanda?
This was a lot of self-reflection. I've thought about it before and couldn't. Oh, sorry, I have a dog.
That's all right.
And she does like to bark, although I don't know why right now. Anyway, every time I get asked this, the one thing I answer that kind of gets some eye rolls at the same time is the community. And you make a community. You can make a community that is non-toxic and encouraging and positive. I know Star Wars and most fandoms, honestly, aren't really known for that, but it is there, and it's there in force if you know where to look. And I have made lifelong friendships from Star Wars. And I've always been a lover of fantasy. I read young adult fantasy all the time, well past my young adult years. That's still my favorite genre. And I consider Star Wars a fantasy over a sci-fi. So it just fell in line with what I already love.
So those wild elements of adventure and things like that.
I think it's deep on the good versus evil level. Or, I don't know if it's deep or not, but it's very relatable, I guess is the word that I want. And we have these black and white archetypes that are black and white often in Star Wars. There's no secrets, really, who's good, who's bad. I think that's kind of comforting. There's shades of gray in that, but I really enjoy relating it to my life, to things that I've learned and things that I value. And a lot of that is just that fight, that constant fight, whether it's outward or inward, for good over evil.
All right. And how about you, John?
Selfishly, the costumes. love nitpicking the costumes, seeing what stitch goes where, and the props, of course. But that's on a deeper level. I think really the original trilogy hooks me, or the original 6 really hooked me in, just because of the story of Anakin. It's no surprise to anyone that I have a very, very strong relationship with my father, and the father-son aspect of the original trilogy really resonates with me. So that has always been a big driving force as to why I always come back to Star Wars.
So have you ever threatened to chop off his hand?
No, he would chop my hand off.
Oh, okay. I just want to make sure.
But I guess 2.5 years later, it'd come back around, right? And I'd get his hand.
Gotcha. Okay. How about you, Mike?
Well, it's weird because I heard John say nitpick, and I think that word, I know John, and he's very particular, but he doesn't nitpick in the sense that he would. I don't picture John ever telling anyone their costume is wrong.
Not in the critiquing and over analyzation.
Right. But it comes down to the community too. And when I was a kid, I didn't know there was a community, right? Like I'm guessing anyone that lived through, like Todd would probably even reminisce of this. You thought you were the only one that liked Star Wars for a little while in those dried up times, because there was no Star Wars T-shirts and stuff like that. And I didn't know so many people really like Star Wars because, like I've said this before, New Hope, it was Star Wars fever and a little bit of Empire, but then it seemed like everyone just stopped liking Star Wars, except for a few, and I didn't get the memo that I wasn't supposed to be a big Star Wars fan. Like my friends had went on to other things. So, and it's the community. Like I would have never met Ken. I never met John, never met any of you, never met half the people I know. Other than my wife, I think everyone in my life I have met through Star Wars.
Well, Mike, it's funny you say that though, because you talk about that like when you were what, 17, 18, 19,
yeah,
in that age range. It's funny because I also didn't really know the broader community. A lot of the stuff that I consider my day-to-day now, like the 501st and all of the people I've met, I wouldn't have met if it wasn't for you kicking the doors open to all of these other opportunities for me. And that was 3 years ago.
Yeah, man, that's thanks to the pandemic and TikTok.
Yep.
Yeah, right.
So I mean, it's the community I know gets a bad rap a lot, but that's who you search out. Like I feel the positive finds the positive, and on this show and in our lives, I just try to avoid. There's certain catchphrases people say that I'm like, okay, I'm not trying to be a jerk. I just steer away from that. At any event, if a discussion starts to go a certain way, I could probably get in and put my 2 cents in, but what good does it do other than gets me riled up, gets them riled up? I just go the other direction, and love
look
Star
at the
Wars.
time. I have to be over there.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of that, and I am glad that it has opened up. It's my daughters, they didn't have as, I mean, it's a fandom, so they weren't like, they didn't have a rough childhood in other regards, but the fandom was tough because, especially when they were younger, the placement of toys, boys' toys were Star Wars. There was no Star Wars in girls, which to me sounds like a big deal, but I'm a guy. But to them, it did send a signal that, hey, you're not supposed to be here, to wear. And the shirts, like Zoe used to really bother her that she couldn't get a girl Star Wars shirt, and Safi's like, I don't care. I'm just going to go to the boys. But so.
Well, and when they started to do I won't say crossover, but that's the only thing that comes to my mind right now. When they started doing some of the action figures that were Barbie doll-esque,
yes,
the Padmes and the Leias and stuff like that, especially the 12-inch ones that were roughly, Barbie doll size or whatever. You wouldn't see a dude going over to that section to get those. Now I've got like 26 of them, and it's interesting how things do,
Oh yeah, it is
and change over time.
It is a wonderful time to be a fan. Like, so I'm gonna just start. Just if we're gonna talk about things we love right now, and just hearing how Amanda got here, we have Star Wars television. Like if someone would have told me in 1993 that I would be able to watch multiple Star Wars shows on a device I carry in my pocket. And I might not like them all, but they might not all be. But there's so much,
Well, for me, so like Amanda, the fantasy element of it really has attracted me a lot over time. And John says he nitpicks the costumes. I would describe it like being attentive, being selective, being ultra precise. And for me, just being able to get more and more of the story, whether it's the lore that Todd was talking about or finding out what character did this, 25 years ago or what have you. For me, the exciting part about it is they're not done. They're building more stories in the past, they're building more stories going forward, and they're filling in the gaps for all of the stories that we've had from year to year to year. And it seems like now more than ever they're working really hard to build these bridges between all the different pieces. It may not be a direct line necessarily, but even in the Acolyte, you'll see little nuggets from things from the High Republic. You'll see little nuggets from the prequels. You'll see little nuggets or connective pieces all the way through to the Rise of Skywalker. And it does a great job of bringing all these different people who have stepped into Star Wars at different time periods to be able to say, oh, I get it. I understand that.
I think that's really exciting. I had seen the movies as they came out. Well, not the originals, but I saw the prequels, and then I saw the originals in college. And I didn't have that strong of feelings. But I did not like the prequels because I did not like Anakin. His turn was so fast in Revenge of the Sith that it gave me whiplash. And then I watched the Clone Wars. And now I am in love with an animated figure. It changed everything for me. And I see that happening with the sequels as well, with Mandalorian era. They're doing a lot there. And I just really appreciate, like you said, filling in those gaps and then extending. It's so exciting to me to see the Acolyte before the prequels and then the High Republic before that. And then hopefully the Mangold movie with Dawn of the Jedi. And then there's going to be Rey's movie. So it's all very exciting.
And I know the answer to this question for 4 of us on the show, and I'm going to ask it out loud anyway. What has Star Wars inspired you to make, in your real world lives? And we'll start with Amanda.
Okay, so I also during the pandemic learned to crochet. So I'm making what's called a Graphgan, little squares, and I'll piece them all together. It's great for my ADHD because it's accomplishable squares. It's not overwhelming. I do that while I sit in church to listen better. And then also bounding. I have found a love when I go to Disney or at school. Since I'm a teacher at Halloween time, dressing up in a bounding outfit, not necessarily a cosplay, because I like the creativity of taking regular day clothes and making them fit a character. So I have a Kanan bound and an Ahsoka bound. Actually, I have 2 Ahsokas. So.
Like Ahsoka the White and then like the younger Ahsoka?
I actually have 2 of the Clone Wars variations. But my favorite is the blue season 7, Siege of Mandalore. So.
Okay.
And then I have her lightsabers too. So super fun.
And you bring those to school with you?
I do. They're empty. I don't bring the blades with me. Well, I do and put them in my classroom and I'll show my kids. But
okay.
The blades are not very attachable on somebody who's 5 feet tall. So
the dragon on the ground behind you.
So plus they're not lit when they're on their waist anyway. So
okay. And how about you, John?
I mean, obviously the 501st is a big part of it. Going out in costume and doing all that, but also 3D printing, prop making, and just even like the golden tauntauns. We all created that, so like making the graphics for that was a lot of fun. But yeah, so just trying to recreate as much as I can. Unfortunately, with the move, I don't have anything in front of me to show off. So.
Well, what's interesting about you mentioned the graphics that you put together for our annual award show. Putting those graphics together, kind of, if I was to guess, jump-started you or kick-started you to be willing to do that for the 501st there in Ohio. Is that a fair guesstimate?
Yeah, no, I've been doing little graphic design here and there, but yeah, being able to go from just something simple like our show and then doing it on a larger scale for the Ohio Garrison has been a lot of fun.
And that might be the kindest way of describing our show is simple.
I was going to say, did you just call it simple?
It was not that much of a challenge to throw those graphics
together.
Okay.
I thought you were just calling us a bunch of simpletons here.
Yeah, thanks for clarifying that for us.
Well, I wouldn't say it out loud, at least not on the air.
Right.
And how about you, Todd?
So, a few years ago, I started making costumes. So I'm in the Mandalorian marks, and of course, I make my own weapons and I make my own gear for that. And I got into 3D printing for, to make Star Wars props and little miniatures that I can paint and stuff like that. That's pretty much it. I mean, we also got like a Cricut vinyl cutter, and we cut stuff to put on the cars and on my toolbox at work. And so it just kind of, every time I get a new piece of gear, I have new stuff to make, and it just inspires me to do more. And of course, podcasting. That's the newest thing for me. Is I never thought I would be a podcaster. Now I'm in 2 of them.
Right.
Well, I think that's a great example of, making something doesn't necessarily mean it has to be physical. I mean, what we're doing right now, yes, you could say we're leaving a digital footprint somewhere. So if aliens landed here, they would be able to listen to our show and find out how odd we really are.
Right.
But there's so much room for that. And Mike, I think, your story is fantastic with some of the things that you've made over the years related to Star Wars.
Yeah, well, I mean, I got into the 501st in 2007, but I started looking for Stormtrooper armor when did the internet start? That was like my second search on the internet. It was like 92, 93, something like that. I was searching for Bulldogs and Stormtrooper armor. That was my, and because my wife was like, so I started searching, and then it just kind of went by the wayside. So I started armor, but then I built that into my daughter's costumes, which I enjoy even more than building my own, which these guys will attest to. I have costumes of my own that I've been working on for a decade. So, but my kids will say, "Hey, Dad, I need this for Friday," and I'll, but it's family. It's bringing people together with Star Wars. I got into 3D printing about 8 years ago, which I was swearing at my printer today, saying I'm going to buy new printers. Mine are too old. So, but I got into printing. I got into podcasting with Zoe. I was just her person putting it together for her, and I was the over 18-year-old when she got a panel. She had to have someone over 18 sign for the panel. And then I just never thought me, Ken, and John would really start a podcast, and that turned into way more fun than all the other stuff. Just besides meeting you guys and meeting new people. John went to London. Me and John went to London, and John had a panel. I got to be on stage with John, my first celebration panel. My kid has done like 5 of them, but I at least got to do one.
But you're international now,
huh?
You guys can officially say you're international podcasters.
Yes.
We're a globally renowned podcast.
Yes. And Ken, I met Ken. I was just Zoe's driver, and I met Ken working on his armor. It was just it's a fun thing.
Well, and with that in mind, so yes, I'm part of the Mando Mercs, and I have a custom costume for that, and I'm working on several others, including, a director Krennic and a pit droid and all this sort of stuff. And what also has been fun about it is to see the other things that we can make with other people. I mean, the 3 of us have been lucky enough to be, part of a fan film with Matt Mickelson. The 2 of you are on screen, and I'm behind the camera, with pink shorts and a boom mic. So we all get to participate in different ways. And so with that idea in mind, what are some of the interesting things that you think about Star Wars that makes room for everybody? What is it that's so special about Star Wars that there's room for anybody to be involved, anyone to feel included, everyone to feel part of the stuff that's made? And we'll start with John with this one, if that's okay.
Well, I mean, it's always been such a collection of characters. There's never been look at the cantina scene. There's so many different kinds of aliens that, if they're all just interacting normally, you could reasonably say, I could be in there. Joe down the street could have been in there for all I know. So it's always been a very diverse group of people that has made up Star Wars, or a diverse group of aliens even.
How about you, Mike? What do you think makes Star Wars special?
Well, I think that's part of it. Like I always like Boshek, in the cantina with the long sideburns. But I think it's the positive. I think George Lucas set it in motion. I don't think he knew what he was doing, except he wanted Flash Gordon. He wanted that kid you could just get excited about the good. Like I still think of the throne room scene at the end of New Hope. Like there was worlds destroyed, people were killed, Obi-Wan died, all this stuff, but you left with hope. The new hope was inside you. And I think good Star Wars at some point gives you hope. And it could just be a scene, it could just be a character that someone relates to. It could be a part of this character and a part of this character. It could just be, hey, I could have a pet Wookiee. It could be many of those things. And I think that's what appeals to everybody. And what's really nice about 21st century Star Wars is they add stuff like the animated stuff. What's the 2 series with all the different style animation? Visions.
Visions.
Yeah, you have Visions, which just that open. Like my students, there are students of mine who would never watch Star Wars. I told them about Visions, and they came back and they were like, "Wow, that was really cool." Because that's what they like. If it's just all if everyone. I don't want to gatekeep and say if you don't like something, whatever. But if you just give any piece of Star Wars a chance, you'll find something, even if it's tiny, in every Star Wars. Like I feel sad. This week I saw a post. Someone 3D printed the helmet from the Acolyte and painted it up. And one of the first comments was, that looks better than what was on the show. Which, that doesn't even make sense. But that's just someone who is ready to write a negative comment.
Yeah.
And so what I like about Star Wars is if you're not that guy, if you're just looking for, you can find it in any show, even the holiday special.
Yeah, absolutely. You could be an acrobat. You could be a musician.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Little shopkeeper. How about you, Todd? What do you think about all that?
I mean, the thing with Star Wars for me is it's anybody can be redeemed, no matter what you've did in your life. I mean, you can always come back from it. The story of Anakin, I mean, he's killed thousands of people, millions of people maybe, as part of the Empire, and yet at the end of his story, he's redeemed and he comes back to the light side. The sequels are the same way. I mean, Ben Solo gets redeemed at the end for all the bad things that he's done and was involved in. And I think that path of redemption should be out there for anybody. Just because you've done some terrible things doesn't mean that you're necessarily a bad person for the rest of your life.
So your choices can help take you from where you were into this other place, kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
How about you, Amanda? What are your thoughts on this?
I feel obligated to talk about the women representation. I'm always puzzled when people say there's not, even in the original trilogy, that there's not that female representation, because I went back and rewatched them all and kind of with that eye to it. And Leia is incredibly strong and forthright and will speak her mind and will not kowtow to anyone. And I mean, the numbers might be skewed, but it was also made in a different time. And I don't think we can judge the past based on modern sentiments and values. I'm like, do you not see this person here? It's kind of like what you were saying before, where people want to criticize. Yeah. So find the positive instead of the negative and be like, this is a role model. And same thing for Padme, especially in Clone Wars. That's another thing that got strengthened, was her storyline. And of course, modern Star Wars, it's completely different now with just all the series. Oh goodness, I love Rebels. That's my favorite. Hera, Sabine, Ahsoka's in there. She's probably my favorite character, obviously. It's everywhere. In the books too. I mean, we have a whole Padme series. We have Rise of the Red Blade, which is a female Inquisitor. Just tons of females and very strong, good examples, bad examples, as it should be. And it's there if you look for it. And you don't even have to look that hard now. So
Yeah.
Well, here's my Sabine collection up here.
yes, I noticed. It's beautiful. I love her.
One
How
thing
do you
that's
not?
also really cool with that in mind is that we also are getting a variety of makers. And when I say makers, I don't mean just movie makers. It can be, you know, writers, it can be stunt performers, it can be directors and producers and stuff like that. So in today's Star Wars, there is room for everyone at the table to contribute, whether they're sewing something, hammering something, acting out something, or planning the next big adventure. And so not only do they get to see themselves in Star Wars, but they get to be involved in helping make Star Wars what it is and what it will be going forward. And I think we definitely, absolutely, positively have to tip our hat to George, because he set out from the very beginning to make this for kids, to teach them lessons, whether it's about good or evil, or the power of choices, the power of redemption, the importance of found friendships, that are larger and stronger sometimes than your own family ties. Um, so it is exciting to see it continue to grow. And you may not realize this, Amanda, but I'll say it out loud. So Dave Filoni and Kathleen Kennedy often listen to our show, and so if you could, let them know one thing that you would like to see in future Star Wars, what would it be? And I'll start with our founder of this show. I'll start with Mike on this one. What do you want to see in the future?
What do I want to see? Oh, that's a good question. I want to see my daughter's name on some of the credits. that's she moved out to LA. She better no. I still want my weekly Star Wars show, live action, that has no connection. Just it's like, here's Joe Blow, nerf herder. What's a nerf herder do? And then next week it's some Mandalorian doing something, and the next week it's the Steve Irwin of Star Wars doing one on Banthas. I want something similar to Visions, where they just give writers and directors, hey, look, what show do you want to do? And it's just a 1 hour show that I could just sit down, and I don't know what's coming. And that's one of the things I liked about the Clone Wars. Like, it had a story, but there were some episodes, I know people like to call them filler, and then we realize they're not filler anymore. But I like those, just like, oh, that was a cool battle scene,
Yeah.
My
That's what
roommate calls. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna-
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
She paused.
Oh no.
Oh, no. Our first technical difficulty. Well, we're 38 minutes in. That's a record for us. But
That might be the longest streak we've had. And so,
let's see.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hang on, I'm gonna flip
there we
I'm gonna
go.
flip. Oh, there you go. Okay. Now go again.
Okay.
Go.
My roommate calls filler episodes transition episodes. We hate the term filler. And so she's really transformed that, I think, into a way that makes it make a lot more sense and is more palatable, maybe. But I don't think there is filler episodes. I don't believe in them.
No, I don't think so either. And I think what people call filler also are depth that might come back later. Like you watch the Zillow Beast, you're like, well, that seemed like filler. But then look at how many things were attached to that in Bad Batch, and and other things. The Purgle are the perfect example, because that first episode with the Purgle in Rebels, everyone had fits. They're like, oh, what was that? It was a wave.
Space whales.
Space whales.
What's this crap?
Yeah.
But they didn't mind the space whales in or space manta rays, I guess they were, in Clone Wars, when they were going after the malevolence. They had to go through, like, there was this big, I don't know, or the big sock bucket that ate the Millennium Falcon. Like, that was fine. So, that's I don't know. I just think there's a lot. Like, I can't not be happy about Star Wars. I really can't.
So what's your wish, Todd? What do you want to see in future stuff?
I would like to see some Old Republic TV shows. I really enjoyed that era in the video games. If I could ask for one thing, make something with Revan in it. Love Revan. But anything Old Republic. I like the time period. I like the technology that was in the games and stuff like that. And I would really like to see some more stuff in that era.
The costumers want Revan on screen because everyone calls Revan Kylo Ren.
Yep.
Guys will do the
Yeah.
most beautiful Revan costume, and a little kid or a mom, oh, go get a picture with Kylo.
Yeah, why is
And you-
Kylo
Yeah,
have two
right.
lightsabers? That doesn't make
Yeah.
any sense. How about you, John? What's your wish?
I mean, is it a cop out just to say more?
Yeah.
Because
No.
I don't care what it is. I just want more. So I have always been my motto has always been all Star Wars is good Star Wars, and I don't care what it is. Just give it to me.
I picture you yelling like
Yeah.
Kylo when they're shooting at Luke.
Yeah. Pretty much. I have loved everything they have put out since Disney has acquired Lucasfilm. I will continue to love everything they will put out. I just want more.
Nice.
You sound like an acolyte of me now, John.
And what do you have on your list, Amanda?
This is a very specific one. I am not a gamer simply because I'm really bad at them, so I just get too frustrated to continue. And I'm very intrigued by Cal Kestis, and I would really like to see them make that into a comic or a book. They did make one book, but I think the medium would translate well into comics. And so that's my soapbox. Make it a comic so I can get the story too. Not all of us are gamers.
Now,
That's
have
true.
you watched the cutscenes that people have put on YouTube?
No, I haven't. It's on my list of things to do.
I'm
it's a
with you.
long
I'm not
list,
good at-
right?
I'm not good at that game either, so
Well, they do have a setting story mode that you can
They
play
do.
the game in. So it's like 2 swings of a lightsaber and you defeat the enemy or whatever.
I-
And then it goes to the cutscene.
I did get a Switch so I could play Lego Star Wars, and that is my speed. Like, just smash
Nice.
things and keep going. And just watch the funny stuff and laugh. That's my speed there.
Well, I've got 2 on my list, and one of them is similar to what Mike is saying, stories of the week, except I want mine in the Clone Wars animation style, and I want all of the stories to start off in Maz Kanata's castle. You know, and it can be a story from way back when, because I thought Maz Kanata was hundreds of years old, or it can be in the the time of the Last Jedi and stuff. But just all of these different stories, whether it's with bounty hunters or pirates or Imperial entanglements, or the random Jedi who comes across a smuggler. So that's one. The other thing I'd like to do, I mean, now that they have Disney Plus, I would love to see a show about the toys, kind of like the toys that made us, but I want it to be about all of the Star Wars stuff, whether it's the C-3PO tape dispenser that probably shouldn't have been made, or the Jar Jar lollipop holder where you sucked on his tongue, or the action figures, just all of the stuff, the how they designed it, how it made it onto the shelves, how successful or unsuccessful it was. Because over the years, I've been one of those people who's amassed a small collection of things, and I'd love to learn more and more about those things. Those are the 2 things. So, Dave, Kathleen, you're listening. Please make one of these things happen.
Well, or Kristen could maybe start it with a book for you.
That's right. Kristen Baver could write an entire book on each of the eras of the Star Wars toys. And maybe Dave was getting a drink while we made that request, but I'm sure Kristen is listening to our show too.
The more
Right.
things change, the more they stay the same.
We knew we had to bring Kristen up.
Yep.
First,
Glad I didn't miss much.
All right. Well, so we all have our fandom circles, and so we should start with Amanda. What would us costumers have to do to drag you into one of the costuming groups?
Oh, I'm interested already. Just a matter of time, money, space, equipment.
Job's done.
No,
Right.
I've never. I mean, like I said, I love bounding, but it's not for lack of love of cosplay. I go to cons, and that's my second favorite thing to do is people watch. My first is the panels, but I think it's incredible, and I just have deep admiration for it.
Now, what would be your dream costume? Like, let's say money, time, if someone said, "Look, we're going to give you a costume that you want," what would it be?
You know, Avar Chris from the High Republic.
No,
Hmm.
It's a
those
simple
fancy
one.
gold robes.
Robes, a diadem, like the kind of a princessy crown thing. I feel like I could rock that maybe.
Well, she was
Break up
pretty
the big
powerful,
forehead.
right? Wasn't she the leader at that time?
She was, and then she wasn't, and it's a whole
It's
story.
complicated.
They're in phase 3 now, so it's
My
it's been ups
follow-up
and
question.
downs.
My follow-up question: would you join like a Rebel Legion group, or would you join because a lot of the groups are becoming different? Would you join like the Saber Guild that does the? Would you be happier in a costume or happier in a costume and learning how to fight with a lightsaber?
Okay, so I really want to learn how to do flow, lightsaber flow. I'm not so interested in the choreography of fighting, but just the more Zen, Tai Chi type
Oh, okay.
flow of it. That's another thing on my list to do one day to learn.
We have
There's
to get
YouTube
our friend
videos.
Sal on here to teach us a lesson. And
Well, Sal's from Texas, so you know
Oh, there you go.
he does head to Texas every once in a while. So he does have lessons on YouTube, Disney Kids YouTube, if you want to do the light
That's
side.
where I should start.
Yeah. So look
Probably
up
with the
Sal.
broom handle.
Look up Sal Perales, Disney. I think it's Disney Kids. He does the light side. So
Very cool.
how about you, Ken? What would you venture into that you're not?
that
we talked
I don't currently have a project in
What
the works.
yeah, what part of fandom that you haven't you? Well, maybe you're in them all. You know.
I know I've said it out loud on this show. I haven't taken any steps towards doing it. Is I would like to have Enzo's kit from the Ahsoka show. The TK with the gold face.
Okay, but I'm more curious for you. No, I'm asking what part of fandom would you do that you don't do already? Because Amanda doesn't do costuming. So
Okay.
is there
Yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
No, I know, I understand that. But I'm just saying, like, Ken, is there a thing of fandom that you haven't done? Like, you've done fan films, you've done podcasting.
I haven't written any fan fiction or any books yet related to Star Wars. So if I were to take something, I would write something. That would be the step into fandom that I haven't done yet.
Well, maybe you need to write the book about all the toys.
There you go, Ken. Get that rough draft to us by next Friday.
After I get my 7 costumes done.
Yeah. How about you, John? What part of have you not?
Well, Ken took mine. I was going to say I want to write a book.
We could be co-authors.
We could. Ken, let's write a book together.
We know an author who can give us suggestions. Kristen, you're listening. Give these 2 knuckleheads some suggestions on how to write. I have brainstormed ideas for books, plural, and one of them is about toys, by the way, Todd. But
Oh, good.
but I do have, one of them is even a business book. You know how they have you ever read the book? Well, you may not. If Disney ran healthcare or Disney ran your hospital, there's this whole entire business book that looked at healthcare through the lens of Disney, and they did seminars and webinars and this sort of stuff. I thought about doing one where George Lucas was the leader that we should all aspire to be like.
I would say Darth Vader runs healthcare. They would just put extra money into like prostheses
And rehabilitation.
Yeah.
Right.
You might need the Cad Bane tubes as well.
Yes,
Right.
yes.
Just got to keep our aspirations in check.
All right, Todd. So you're kind of a Renaissance guy like Ken, but what Star Wars like? I don't know what you call it, like an expression of fandom. Haven't you tried, or would you want to try?
I think I would really like to try the sabers. Actually, learning how to fight with the sabers. I have one to use, but I don't really have any skill with it. And too concerned about going in the backyard and running around with a lightsaber and
You have
making a
neighbors.
fool out of
Yeah.
myself. Yeah,
You have an image to uphold.
not really, but
Well, that could go in. You could almost take that into LARPing with your D&D.
yeah. That I mean, I've done some sword work, but lightsaber is different, especially like mine's more like the original trilogy sword fighting that more than the prequels.
Well, I guess I got to go too, right?
You
Yep.
can't get away. You got to
So
add your
because
contribution.
I was thinking like I would have, if we wouldn't have done Matt's thing, I would have said fan film. Like that was super enjoyable to sit in armor for 14 hours and have to reshoot every scene. Day two. But no, but I would have said that. But I think I'm gonna go along with Todd with after having Sal was chatting with us last week. I was like, I really would. I think I never thought I'd like to be in Saber Guild, but I was like, it might be a way to get in shape. And if I could just figure out a costume that can cover my face, be a something. But yeah, I like the Saber Guild. Now I'll do it in my backyard because people are used to seeing like naked mannequins all in my garage. So that's probably a step up from what they normally see.
Yeah.
Or when all these guys come over, I put the big inflatable Darth Vader that was on the top of Burger King's. I have one of those. So and it's the size of my front yard.
Yeah, isn't it like 9 feet tall or something like that? Maybe even taller.
Yeah. So
yeah,
I just
big.
When last time Ken was over, I just put that up in the front yard, or 2 times ago when you were for the armor party.
So we knew where his house was. So we get mixed up with the rest of them.
But I mean, overall, it comes down to friendship. Like it's and with what Amanda's doing with the books is awesome. As a teacher, it's weird. I've been teaching long enough to know before the new movies, kids weren't interested at all. There was that 1 or 2 kids maybe, but now, it is a good way to connect with children on so many levels. So like my students want to see 3D printed stuff. So I'm like, here's a helmet I made, so I'm trying to get my robotics kids to build an R2. So it's just all that stuff that attaches us together and makes it, again, I'm happy to meet all of you.
And actually that brings up an interesting question as we're getting close to our typical, 1 hour time. What is one thing that you've done that you wouldn't have done had it not been for Star Wars? And so for me, one of the things is our entire family. And when I say our entire family, it's a small group. It's me, Heather, and our 2 boys. We went out to California to go one day at Disneyland and Star Wars Celebration. And so I got to do that with them, and it was incredibly special. I got to, sit in panels and hear and see some of these people I had, seen on screen and read about for years and years and years, to see them live and in person. So that's one thing that I've really enjoyed about Star Wars. I probably wouldn't have done if it wasn't for it. How about you, Todd? What's one thing that you'd put into that list?
I mean, if it wasn't for Star Wars, most of my life would be pretty different. I have Star Wars all over the house. I'd probably have a normally decorated house, probably country themed or something like that. I collect everything that I can find in Star Wars. So I have miniatures, and I have, the action figures, and I have wall sconces, and I even have a Baby Yoda pinata that's in my basement. And if it wasn't for Star Wars, I wouldn't have any of that stuff, I'm sure. I mean, it's just affected my entire life.
How about you, John?
I mean, yeah, I can agree. My life would be incredibly different, but I'll throw one in there that's a double whammy for Mike and I. I probably would have never been to London, let alone hosted a panel at Star Wars Celebration in front of, I don't know what, 20 or 30 people who I have no idea who most of them were.
They had a good time too, John.
It was
they
the place.
did. So yeah, so many things in my life would be so different if had it not been for Star Wars. I'd never met any of you. I would have never started my own podcast. I would have never met some of the amazing people I know from the Ohio Garrison here that are some of my closest friends.
And you get to troop with your dad.
Yep.
From someone who has trooped with his kids their entire life, I get so happy when I see pictures of you guys trooping. Like I wish there was like some word that would express the smile that gets on my face every time I see the feed of either you or your dad trooping together.
Mm-hmm.
Because
especially knowing that his dad wasn't going to troop ever. At least
Yes.
according if we listened to John early on, I'm not going to get dad into it, and his dad is fully into it now.
Yeah, he is feet first, head first, however the saying goes. He's all in. So yeah, some of my best memories.
How about you, Amanda?
Well, podcasting. I would have never dreamed of that. And then going to conventions, to cons. Like, that was not on my radar. And I actually have, you can see there's Marvel behind me, and there's Star Wars to the side of me. Airbenders over there. I have a lot of fandoms, but I never would have, I thought cons were weird.
Hey, I was one of those weirdos that went in the 80s. So.
I mean, that's kind of a harsh word, I suppose. It's a little judgy. It's a lot judgy, really, in retrospect. But it just wasn't for me, maybe a better way to say it. It's absolutely for me. And I'm so excited. I'm going to Retro Expo in Dallas and next weekend. They're doing a Clone Wars voice actor reunion.
Nice.
And then I'm going to SpaceCon in San Antonio in October, where there's Hayden and Rosario Dawson and Ewan McGregor and tons of great people. So.
Did you get out to Rebel Scum Con?
I did not, because I chose these other two before I knew about Rebel Scum, and
okay.
I've got to make some choices.
Yeah.
Well, that's a wonderful thing, you know.
Animation is my favorite. People ask me what my favorite Star Wars movie is, and I tell them Rebels, and then they roll their eyes at me. I'm like, well, fine, whatever. Sure, it's not a movie, whatever.
Yeah.
Well, this group loves Rebels, that's for sure.
Oh yeah. That was my. We went and saw the. We got to see the Rebels premiere in the movie theater when they released it. So the same theater you and I went to, Ken, for Acolyte.
The King of Prussia Mall?
Yeah, King of Prussia Mall. But here, I mean, have you seen? This is the Dave Filoni. This is the Dave Filoni footage of his interview. So I'll try to get a copy and get it to you or Ken or somebody. But it came with TV Guide.
Okay.
Zoe was all about Dave Filoni before I even knew his name. She was all about it. So little 7-year-old.
He was an airbender. I mean, great guy, great brain.
And so, considering you're the main host and lead of the show, Mike, let's end with you telling the world what your thing is that you wouldn't have done if it hadn't been for Star Wars.
Well, it dovetails with what John said, but it's the panels. Like, I have tons of I probably have forgotten some of the best memories that I've had right at this moment. But I think of that first panel you and I did, Ken, at Fan Expo. It was just so cool, you know. And then we give away a helmet to a little girl on her birthday, you know. And then we did it again the next year, and we give, you know what I mean. It was. I think the panel with John. I was so honored to be invited, to that, and it was just so much fun. I mean, that's some of it. I mean, the trooping in the 501st, trooping with my kids, like when they were Jawas and I was Stormtrooper, or watching Safi as 000 in Chicago, trying to get away from all the photographers just so she could get to the con floor, you know, that kind of stuff. Like all of that. It just keeps flowing through my head. Like every one of these Sabine helmets that I painted over the years, I'm like, I remember getting that ready for this con or getting that ready for this con. You know, it's just all of those memories that I have, you know, and the cons, just like you were saying with cons, in the 80s, there were no females at cons, almost none. Like there were many times my wife, who was my girlfriend at the time, she was the only female there, you know, And I am so glad that my girls, and it has changed, that it is not that way anymore. So, and that's all fandom. But I from Star Wars, like, you know, Star Wars rules the universe, and in my life, and Star Wars fandom Star Wars has led the charge. Like you were saying, you can't judge from our time, but if you look at any heroine from a 1976 movie and compare it to Carrie Fisher's heroine in 1976, it is decades before its time. And you know, so, and now they're just trying to do it right, and hopefully everyone loves it
And to John's point, just more.
more. Well, I want to thank everyone for coming. Where can we Ken, I'll let you're better at directing.
Yeah, sure thing. So, like I said at the top of the show, when I'm not here on the Inflatable Falcon, you can find me on the Rambling Star Wars Fan. I have an Instagram page under that name, and the newest show that I'm involved in is Bounty Hunting Across the Galaxy with Todd
Awesome
and
show.
Ken. And we have 2 episodes out so far, and our next one is going to be all about the Great Sith Wars. How about you, Todd?
Well, of course, I'm the other half of Bounty Hunting Across the Galaxy with Todd and Ken. I am also at the Table Ready podcast, where I talk about Warhammer and tabletop games. And then on YouTube at Lake Clan Legends, where we play Dungeons and Dragons. And of course, you can find us on Facebook and Instagram at all those things.
And up in the top, how about you, John?
Find me here, the Inflatable Falcon. Whenever I show back up, it seems like a special guest appearance at this point.
You were very special, yes.
Thank you. And then eventually, the Beskar bucket will be reopened for business. So we'll get there when we get there.
Nice, Amanda.
So Clashing Sabers, it's Clashing Sabers on all social media. The website's clashingsabers.net. And I'm a deaf ed teacher and certified interpreter, although the signing skills have gone down as the teaching time has increased. But I'm planning on starting an Instagram account signing Star Wars, because I am bothered by the videos that I've done are not accessible for my deaf friends. So I want to make it more accessible to them. So.
Nice. Thank you
Very
for
nice.
that.
Yeah, you're welcome.
And then wrap us up, Mr. Mike.
Okay, you can find me here, Inflatable Falcon. CreateCast soon. My daughter's Star Wars Geek Girl. I still do work with that. StarWarsGeekGirl.com. She just did a whole bunch of book reviews. So if you're lazy and don't feel like reading the books, or you just want to see what someone who grew up with Star Wars thinks about it, check out Star Wars Geek Girl. Yeah. So that's it, Ken. We already got you. I do have one suggestion for you guys, though, Ken.
Okay.
You guys are in Jersey or near Jersey. You need to get your suits on with, your suits that you have the pictures with your helmets, and go to the Quickie Mart that was in Clerks and get a picture.
Tom's River.
Yeah,
No, Red Bank. Sorry, Red Bank.
You need it. Well, because you can go to one or two places. You can go to the real one, or you can go to the new shop. They have it rebuilt in the back of the shop.
In the back. Oh, that's funny.
So you need that picture. Like that needs to be a cover for your, That's my only show advice.
I'm gonna have to find a red suit.
I just go to like the thrift stores around here. They divide all their clothes by color. So if you just go to red, and it's just go to red. And one last thing is, we're going to do our 2nd annual awards show. So keep this in the back of your minds. Anyone that's on our show, if you want to join our awards show sometime was that February? We did that, March.
I think it was March, the first week of March.
Yeah, so the Inflatable Falcon, it'll be the 2nd annual Golden Tauntauns. So any guest presenters. I didn't get my Golden Tauntaun.
I know. I still need. It has been unpacked. I need to ship it out.
So,
and now with the click and ship, it makes life so much easier.
Didn't I teach? See, I'm learning you. I'm learning you here. So
once a teacher, always a teacher.
We'll post this up, and then I'll also share this footage, or you guys can use it for whatever you want. Audio, video, or whatever you want. So it might take me a day or two. Like I'm on school summer, so I'm like time and days are a little confusing.
They get very nebulous.
Yeah. So,
and I'm gonna do face swap. Please make me look like George Clooney or Keanu Reeves or something.
And for our regular listeners, I am going out to LA next week, so I am meeting up at Magic Jump somewhere. We lost somebody.
Mr. Todd.
Todd rolled out on us. But I am going to Magic Jump because Amanda, I don't know if you know about our show. It's named after the giant inflatable Falcon.
Mhm.
It's like, what is it, $10,000 or something like
Yes.
that?
11,000.
$11,000.
Oh, goodness.
I thought it was on sale.
Inflation.
Yeah. So,
Nice.
but one guy who works for us was on our show, so I'm going out to visit him.
Oh, nice.
It's
when I
9.
go out
It's
to
on
visit
sale.
my 9,000. Yeah, but remember we figured out
That's a
shipping.
really long
Remember
sale.
shipping for 1,100 pound whatever.
Maybe that's in the sandbags. We had to throw in the
Yeah.
extra sandbags.
Yes.
That's what it was that
Yes.
put us over the top.
All
'Cause
right.
I don't
So
want the inflatable Falcon flying away.
I'm going to do our ending thing, and then we'll end it. And then if anyone else has anything, if I can find my outro. Where's my outro? There we go.
Wouldn't be the inflatable.
I used to put my faith in starships, but then my Falcon's hyperdrive just slipped. I used to worry about the future, but then I threw my caution to the wind. I had no reason to be carefree, no, until I took a trip to the treetop side of town. Yeah. You know I heard that wicked rhythm. Hey, I had no choice but to get down, dance. Woo! There's nothing left for me to do but dance. All these bad times I'm going through, just dance. Got cash shaking my heels tonight, baby.
No disrespect to my man here, but you ready for the real deal superstar?